This woman, lovely woman, Alice Johnson, that you freed, these other drug dealers you freed, you're now saying they should be executed? And Trump is kind of like, I haven't thought about that.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Next Level. I'm JVL, here with my best friend, Tim Miller, and a very, very dear friend and colleague, Amanda Carpenter, who will have some personal talk and some personal news about Amanda towards the end of the show.
I'm not dying.
Guys, happy Hunter Biden plea bargain day. We're recording this on Tuesday evening. Show comes out on Wednesday. Hunter Biden, the feds got him. They got him dead to rights, and they squeezed him till he pleaded out. As the great Fred Thompson said on Law and Order, the plea bargain is the greatest, what was this line? The plea bargain is the greatest invention in jurisprudence since the guillotine. What did you guys make of it?
I wonder if Fred these days, a MAGA Fred, an AI MAGA Fred Thompson, I wonder what he would have said about the Hunter plea. Amanda, why don't you take the lead?
I'd like to defend his honor. I do not think Fred Thompson would have gone MAGA. I think he would have left politics before he went MAGA.
Okay, maybe.
Kind of did leave politics.
Yeah. Amanda, you go. I'm sorry. I bullied my way into the floor.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not fully excited or read into this story. He pled to it. It's over. Fine. Good. The end?
Two-tiered system of justice where some people are forced to plead guilty and other people have the feds ask them a dozen times to please give back the classified records that they illegally held on to. They refuse to either give them back or then plead out and instead force a raid and a criminal indictment.
Here's the reason I can't get excited about the Hunter Biden story. Because every time I watch the MAGA media get so exercised about it, I just want to say to them, you know Hunter Biden is not President Biden, right? Do you know
he's
that?
Part of the Biden crime family.
Where's Hunter?
Right.
They want him to be. Where's Hunter? Why isn't he around? Right. I got used to this. I thought that son-in-laws and daughters were supposed to just hang out with the White House doing deals.
Hunter doesn't have an office at the White House?
I am all for going after these corrupt kids. I'm for it.
Totally.
Go after Jared. Go after Ivanka. Go after all of them. I mean, here's the other thing. There's so much open corruption happening. It's just gross. Of course, they didn't even get into the business deals. And go ahead, James Comer. You've been investigating in the House for how long now, and you've come up with absolutely nothing. It's
the key witnesses
open
died,
corruption.
I'm afraid to say they had this little old
just
lady who
to
knew
die.
it all,
Wink.
and she just happened to pass away. Otherwise, they would have had him.
Yeah,
maybe it was passed away though, but maybe it was more nefarious. Who's to say?
So, Tim, I want to set the table here because I'm hoping you're going to give me a righteous rant.
I have a rant. I'm happy that I'm jealous of Amanda. I wish I could not care about this, but unfortunately, my blood pressure was high today.
All right, so here's the deal. The assistant U.S. attorney in this case is one David Weiss. He was appointed to his position in the Department of Justice by President Donald J. Trump. President Donald J. Trump said when he announced David Weiss's appointment that David Weiss shared his goal of, quote, making America safe again. This is a quote from the announcement about Weiss's appointment. Typically what happens when a new president from a different party takes over,
that guy was sidelined, though, Weiss, and he was initially on the case.
All the AUSAs are replaced. In this case, the Biden administration retained two assistant U.S. attorneys, one of whom was David Weiss. Why did they retain him? Because he was in the act of investigating
because
Hunter
he's part
Biden,
of the
Biden
crime family?
Son. And so Joe Biden, the president, did not want to interfere with the investigation of his own kid, and he let this guy keep going. David Weiss wound up getting Hunter to plead. He's had a grand jury in process. The three charges we have are two misdemeanor tax fraud charge, not fraud, but two misdemeanor tax charges because he didn't file and pay taxes when he owed $100,000 for two consecutive years. And then a gun charge. Here's the gun charge. When purchasing a firearm and filling out a federal form, which asked, are you addicted to any illegal substances? Hunter Biden said no. But in fact, the answer was yes.
So he pled guilty to lying to the government?
He pled guilty. He said,
what kind of precedent could this set?
I lied to the government. And what he's diverted into a diversion program to help him reclaim his good habits. And since he was a nonviolent offender who didn't go and shoot 19 people at a shopping mall with his gun that he lied on the form to get, he just happened to lie on the form. Hey,
I just have a quick aside question, just a really quick aside, and then I'll get to your question. It just is more of a personal matter, may or may not be personal. But listening to the Hunter Biden gun thing, so like when I go into the doctor's office, or when someone like me goes in the doctor's office and they say, how many cigarettes have you had in the last year? And I say none. And they say, how many alcohol drinks do you have a month? And I'm like, 3 to 6.
They write you down for like 20.
Does that open me up to any crimes like this, or is it just because it was a gun?
Come on, Tim.
No, only if you're buying an AR-15 and you lie about being addicted to weed.
Are you worried about lying to your doctors now?
I just wanted to flag that. I was hearing the Hunter thing, and it was bringing up some. I don't know.
There is an issue, I think, because there's been pediatricians asking if there's guns in the household, and there was a controversy over that in some states. Because they're trying to figure out if there's house hazards. That might be something else, but I don't think so.
So, Tim, having just set the table for listeners, please, sir, do your thing.
Well, you missed one. You missed one thing, JVL. In addition to the late tax payments on 2 years and the not admitting that he was addicted to crack when he bought the gun, he also did take $30,000 in improper deductions. So. I know. Tough stuff.
Did he not have the receipts for those?
I guess he didn't. He took him as a business expense.
I want to know what he tried to write off.
It was kind of like in Seinfeld, where he's like, we're just going to write it off, Jerry.
You write it off.
That laptop I dropped off at the sketch doctor, I think it was stolen.
I just wrote it off.
I used that 80% for business, 20% for personal.
20% for nudes. Actually, we looked at the laptop, and it was 90% nudes.
Yeah, his intellectual property.
10%
they got
questionable
him. The
business
IRS
deals.
always gets you.
Look,
you can't write off your nudes.
Hunter is a problem. As a guy with problems, is shady. I don't like it. I have a beloved reader who emails me and says that I should care more about this, because if this was Trump's kids, I would be mad. And I say to that beloved reader, I am mad. I wish that we had a president who did not have any family members who grifted off of the president's name. I really wish we did. We don't. We have a current president whose son has used Biden's name inappropriately, and several, including in foreign business deals. That's bad. But it's nothing even on the scale of what the Trump kids do. It's not even in the same universe. And we're talking about, a couple milli here and there. MBS sent billions to Jared Kushner, and and many foreign governments were actively paying the sitting president, not just his family, the sitting president, through his hotels and whatnot. So anyway, putting that aside, this case, the thing that has gotten me. Joe Perticone has a great rundown from the Hill. If you haven't got the Press Pass newsletter, go read it. All the crazy MAGAs, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, are saying all this stuff you'd think that they would say. Oh, this is a sweetheart deal. This is a rat. This is the Biden, the Biden crime family intervened in this and gave them this sweetheart deal. And they, it's only Biden. If this happened to you, MAGA Americans, you would have gotten the book thrown at you. I don't know what the book is exactly on 30,000 in deductions.
You would have had the art of the deal thrown at you.
Who would have known? But here's the thing. It isn't just them. Tim Scott, the good Republican, I don't want to insult any of our friends. The never Trump conservative center-right Republican of choice. Tim Scott is tweeting today about how it's a two-tiered system of justice and MAGA Americans wouldn't have been treated this way. Ben Shapiro, the thinking man's pundit, not one of those crazy MAGAs, just somebody who employs crazy MAGAs like Candace Owens. He's the reasonable one, is out there saying today that he got this sweetheart deal. It's just what in the fuck are you people talking about? They have one program. They have no interest in being good faith. But no matter what happened in this Hunter case, they were going to sing from the same damn hymn book to just run cover for Donald Trump. They might pretend they don't like Donald Trump. They might say they prefer Ron DeSantis, but all of this is a big old kayfabe in it to run cover for Donald Trump and his criminality. The Hunter Biden plea deal, I'm not a legal expert, but seems like a pretty good deal. Do you want to know one anecdote that shows me why it's a good deal? Here's another settlement I'd like to bring up to you. Here's one that happened recently with the federal government.
I know what you're doing. You're doing.
A $2 million settlement that was made. The agreement filed Friday asked the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of Florida, hint, hint, to enter a judgment that would resolve or have dismissed all of the claims the federal government made regarding $1.7 million in unpaid income taxes. They had to pay penalties and interest. Yeah. 1.7 million, quite a bit more. They had to pay penalties and interest for this. They had to pay back taxes. There was no probation. They did not have to plead guilty. The defendants in this case, in our two-tiered system of justice.
It was Chelsea Clinton and Hillary Clinton.
No. It was Roger and Nydia Stone.
What?
I don't know if that was his actual wife or one of the
one. I was on vacation last week. I didn't miss this.
Stone.
So Ron DeSantis's Florida forgave $1 million in taxes for Roger Stone?
Feds.
Same thing. That was Delaware. Hunter was in Delaware. Roger was doing it in Florida. It was just district courts.
This was a Biden-appointed soft-on-crime Democrat prosecutor who let him off, and that's why.
After Stone got a pardon, how many times has Roger Stone gotten
all the time.
hard deals?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I know what's
going to happen. Biden is going to pardon his son, right? That's what comes next, right? Like, that's how this works?
Just like Trump pardoned his guys? So this asshole in this two-tiered system of justice where the MAGAs are being targeted, Roger Stone has been pardoned by one president and then just given a get-out-of-jail-free card by the feds on a tax bill that was 20x Hunter Biden's tax bill. Hunter got a worse deal than that. Hunter had to deal with a Trump-appointed justice, or excuse me, a Trump-appointed prosecutor. Thank you. That Biden did not interfere with, that Biden did not get involved with. In fact, Donald Trump tried to bleeded out a picture of Biden with somebody from the Department of Justice to prove they were colluding. The picture was from 2013 when he was vice president and the person was not at the Department of Justice. Like these guys have fucking nothing. Like Hunter, if anything, I guess you wouldn't say he got a raw deal, but Hunter got a fair deal, right? They treated him. It wouldn't be surprising if they put their thumb on the scale a little bit because they didn't want to have the image of having treated him better than other folks.
But for his part, you got to say he played ball. If Donald Trump played ball and admitted to some things and pled guilty, we wouldn't be going through all the court stuff.
Or if he just returned all the documents.
Right? You get better deals when you cooperate generally.
Right.
If you agree to admit some guilt, they treat you a little better. Like, this isn't a big secret.
So
there is a two-tiered system of justice between people who respond when the federal government asks for subpoenas.
And who believe in it.
That's the two-tiered system between those who hid their documents and those who cut a deal and work with the feds.
People who listen to lawyers and people who listen to Tom Fitton. Another big difference.
There's a two-tiered system there as well.
Competent legal counsel,
so
man on the street.
Here's what the book would have entailed. The Hunter would have been on the hook for 1 year for each count of the tax stuff and up to 10 years for the firearms charge.
Really?
That is the full weight of the entire thing.
Dude, how many other people could get jail on that?
I don't know how... From what I have read up quick on this, unlike medical school, I could have gone to law school. I was admitted to many law schools and chose not to go. But my understanding is it is incredibly rare for non-violent offenders to be charged with this gun charge.
I'm sorry, just really quick. You took the LSAT?
Fuck yeah, I crushed the LSAT, dude.
You took the LSAT. Yeah. You studied for it. You prepped for it.
I didn't study for it. I literally walked in and just took it cold.
For fun.
Well, you fucking show off. Okay, never mind. Let's move. Let's keep moving. You're
174.
So as somebody who got a 174 on the LSAT without studying, what your assessment is, generally, people who are first-time offenders who are addicted to crack and buy a gun and don't admit that they're addicted to crack don't go to jail for 10 years?
Yes, that is my impression. But here's the thing: if they had tried Hunter Biden and nailed him for the full 12-year bit, and he had gone to San Quentin or the Supermax or hell,
Alcatraz.
If they reopened Alcatraz for him, I'd have been fine with that.
No, that
would have been fine by me. I have no particular rooting interest in Hunter Biden. What I want is a justice system.
Maybe. Oh, no.
What I want is a justice system that functions in a reasonably fair and predictable way. And here we have a prosecutor who had been involved in an active prosecution against a high-profile suspect, and he was allowed to do it, and he has made his plea deal. And you know what? He doesn't get the final say. David Weiss doesn't have the final say on what happens. The plea deal has to go to the judge. And if this is such a sweetheart deal that it betrays the interests of justice, then the judge will reject it. That is a thing which happens every once in a while. And so this, what is the remedy? This is what I want to say to all these the anti types out there, right? Who there are libraries where trans drag queens read stories. Okay, great. What is the remedy? What do you want to do with that, right? And if you don't like
Ben Shapiro said he wants Republicans only to prosecute Republicans. That happened. That was a Republican prosecuting a Democrat.
Is that okay, or is that not okay?
Not good enough for him. Sorry. That was his proposed remedy, but keep going.
Well, what's the proposed remedy, right?
What we're really getting to is about prosecuting Trump. And so over the past week, you've had all these Republicans come out and say, that indictment, pretty bad. Trump pretty much admitting to it, doesn't deny he did it. Okay, we all pretty much agree on this. If the indictment is true and what he said in interviews is pretty much, yeah, I did it, what do you think the punishment should be? Not about Hunter Biden. He pled guilty. Okay, you say you read the indictment. What should the punishment be? And just open-ended question, because if they're going to say nothing because he's the president, let's get to that point, because we do not know how to punish a president. That's been the thing since day one with Trump. We do not know how. We have no remedy. We're in completely uncharted territory. We're just sort of leaving it to the legal system. But now we have an indictment. It's right there. He doesn't deny it. He's on Fox News saying, pretty much. Okay, now what? I would just
Amanda, this is just, I want to throw in there.
What is it going to be?
You're right. This is exactly right. And the Beltway insiders that listen to us should have that question ready for Mike Pence and these assholes the next time. Because Mike Pence has done a million interviews on this. Nobody does ask him that. What should his punishment be? I think Mike Pence's answer is nothing. Well, they asked,
would you pardon him? But no, What is the punishment?
What is the appropriate punishment? And that's what this is all about. There would be, some talk rate, some podcast jockeys and some Fox people that no matter whether Trump was dead or alive, if it's a Democratic president, are going to try to make some big stink about how, it's never fair. They're putting on their team jersey and Hunter Biden, unless Hunter Biden gets the death penalty, it's not going to be fair for some of these people, right? No matter what. Okay.
But and then you got to go back and do kill Hillary retroactively.
Right.
Because.
But the other group, right, the people that are ostensibly, that we keep being told, are the, modicum of reason, that are the good faith actors, that are not in the MAGA cult. To a person, the Tim Scotts and the Ben Shapiros of the world are continuing to just propagate this insane alternate universe where Joe Biden is it has his thumb on the scale, is both dementia ridden and has his thumb on the scale of Merrick, and has his thumb on Merrick Garland-Marlin's neck and is telling him, you better get that plea deal. You better prosecute Trump, when he's not doing any of that. And it's extremely obvious to anybody that is watching that he's not doing any of that. In each case, it's either been a grand jury or an individual prosecutor who has made these assessments. And maybe the Bragg case was weak, and you can say that was politicized because it's Bragg. I didn't agree with that, but at least on that one, that is a political actor. In every other case, this is not the like a conspiracy of Democratic elites.
We saw the pictures, the boxes in the bathroom, in the ballroom. Like, it's just like,
it's not
earlier, the open stuff that's happening that is so flipping obvious. And we have to sit around and Bret Baier like sits there. Like, people say Bret Baier filleted him, took Trump down. No, he absolutely did not. He asked these questions, which is a basic journalistic function. Trump gave him ridiculous answers. Like, oh, I was too busy. Doing what? Like, I need Bret Baier to sit there and be like,
MC.
Do I look like an idiot? Why should I believe you? I mean, you can be nice to him, but like, how do you expect me to believe this as a sentient person, rather than like, okay, thanks, sir. Let's move on to the next question. Does this hurt your electability?
This is an outstanding transition. We had on Tuesday night part 2 of the Trump-Bret Baier sit-down. I did not watch it. I'm sorry. So I'm here to learn from you. I'm an audience surrogate. Amanda, tell me what you saw.
I watched.
I did take some notes. There was like probably 10 minutes on Trump going off on DeSantis, a lot on the COVID policy, essentially accusing DeSantis of being disloyal, shutting down the state too much. And there was some back and forth on vaccines where Trump kind of tried to take credit for it, but say that he played nice because he didn't shut down the states and he gave states the power to do this and blah, blah, blah. It was just like kind of messy. What else? A lot of it was Trump. There's talk about his nonsensical drug policy in which he now wants to execute drug dealers, but at the same time take credit for the First Step Act. Baier asked a fairly obvious question where he said, this woman, lovely woman, Alice Johnson, that you freed, these other drug dealers you freed, you're now saying they should be executed? And Trump is kind of like, I haven't thought about that. And like, truly he hadn't. And Bret Baier has to be like, what do you mean you haven't thought this through? Like, you're thinking about executing people. This is where, like, I can't. Like, Bret, this is not serious journalism because you have to act like a real person. He is talking to the world like we're stupid, and everyone goes along with it. And then
the death penalty bit was so good, though. Can we just pause on this for 1 second?
Okay, but I do have to get back to the debate stuff.
I'm going to get you back to your report. The death penalty thing, we just need to sit here for a second. It was as if Tim Russert was there and like, and he had this just really great little nugget that he had pulled deep, out that the politician is like, you got me. And it was just like the most obvious thing where Bret Baier is like, here's the setup. So you say you want to kill drug dealers. And Trump's like, oh, yes, we got to kill drug dealers. I talked to Chairman Xi and President Xi. And President Xi says that's how they stopped the opium wars
very
there.
Strong.
And everyone was drugged out
very,
there.
Very strong.
And then something happened and then drug dealing became illegal there. And no longer to be able to do drugs in China. And now it's the death penalty and we got to do it. We're very strong.
It's true. There are no drugs anywhere in China.
And then Bret Baier's like, okay, well, but you did the First Step Act that let some drug dealers out, including... And Trump's like, oh, yes, this was very strong. Alice Johnson, we got her out of there. And she barely did anything. She dealt some marijuana, and it wasn't a big deal. She should have been in jail. And then Bret's like, well, but you just said you'd kill drug dealers, and then you said that this lady you let out sold marijuana. And Trump, like, literally pauses for a second. It's like, you really got me there, Bret.
Yeah, he tries to be like, well, it's not retroactive. It's going forward. If we had this policy, she wouldn't have done it. That's literally what he says. If we had this policy, she wouldn't have dealt the drugs.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just like, boy, this guy is a mental giant that Bret Baier, that the tough questioning Bret Baier was able to corner him with this little mind game. Anyway, I'm sorry, Amanda. We just had to take a moment on that.
Someone that doesn't think through their policy of executing people by like one step forward, you do not deserve to be taken seriously in an interview. You'd be like, you know what? I think you need to take some time to think this through before you start thinking about killing people. Go away. No. You're not coming here. But anyway, okay. The whole point of this was to soften up Trump, to make sure that he would participate in the debate that Fox is promoting relentlessly that will happen in August, right? And so that was the last 10 minutes of the interview, talking about like, well, will you debate? And Trump is so straightforward about this. It's like, you're not listening to what he's saying. Trump flat out told Bret Baier, why would I go on a debate stage and let Ada Hutchinson, he doesn't say his name right, take shots at me? He has no polling. Trump says, I'm ahead by 50 points. Why would I stand there and let these people take shots at me? It's like, that is correct. Duh. And then Bret Baier is like, well, don't you think you've been treated very fairly? It's like, you're not listening to what he's saying. Like, Trump is like, I laughed so hard. And Trump kind of says, well, this is kind of a puff piece, Bret. It's like totally called him out. It's like, yes, this is nothing but a sugar sweet piece of bait to get you there. And then they wrap it up and just by promoting the future debate. And it's like, he just told you he's not going to come if it's not good for him. And this is the whole thing about the CNN town hall. It's like they're just trying to bait him to come to the debates and get them ratings. And nobody learned anything from 2016, or they did, and they don't care because they put their ratings and their paychecks ahead of absolutely everything.
The chumminess at the end, Amanda, I think you really hit the nail on the head. It was gross. I mean, Bret did it a couple times, like, challenge him. It wasn't it wasn't a Sean Hannity interview, but, like, the chumminess.
Thank you, Bret Baier.
Yeah, right.
For not instructing him how to answer the question.
Yeah, but he was laughing at Trump a couple times, and you knew that Trump didn't think it was too tough of an interview because he didn't give Bret Baier the Mika treatment with his insults, if you know what I mean. The
last question was actually, how's Melania handling all this?
Yeah, literally, that's the last question. How's Melania doing? Okay.
Wouldn't you say your biggest fault, President Trump, is that you care too much?
One thing I feel I need to mention, because I was mad at myself after the Nichols, after me and Tom did that recap on YouTube over the Monday night.
I like that, by the way.
Part one. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, no, it was fun. Subscribe to our YouTube page if you haven't already. We did like 35 minutes, and I forgot. I looked at my notes after, and I did not mention that Trump explicitly suggested that the feds are planting classified documents in his boxes, along with his golf cleats and his pants. And he's
tapped his wires. Why would they do that
Don't leave them in the toilet.
And it's just like, this is the kind of thing where I just think it's always important to step back, because if literally any other politician through time immemorial had ever said that the feds are planting classified information in my files with no evidence, that is a massive front page New York Times scandal. That is just not something that politicians did. And there were times when the FBI did plant things, back in the bad old days. But in modern times, you can't even imagine, I don't know, Bob Dole being like, the feds are planning stuff on me. I mean, this shit is crazy. Or Al Gore, this stuff is insane. It's like total lunacy. It is undermining our institutions. It is an absurd lie. And yet even me with my TDS spent 35 minutes going back over the thing, and I don't mention it because he's so full of shit. And this is why these things are an exercise in futility. And that's the point that I'm getting to, right? Is like, there is actually no way, and there's some best practices, as you've written in a column, JVL. There are things you can do better than others, like not having a cheering section, for example. Great job, Chris Licht.
Ding, ding, ding.
But, there are best practices. But really, at the end of the day, it's very, I think it may be impossible, and extremely challenging to deal with someone that is just a river of shit. Every time they open their mouth is a lie and is a false accusation, and so how are people supposed to process this?
Here's the problem.
And I think that's what happens with those voters.
Here's the problem. There is no institution in American journalism which would be comfortable being as adversarial as you need to be in order to responsibly give Trump access to your airwaves. MSNBC
John Swan is
would
the only one that did it.
Yeah, that's about it, right?
Yeah, right.
And
if you look
nobody
back,
else, NPR, MSNBC, they do not have the stomach to do what you would have to do, because it's awfully uncomfortable, right? And it's...
Well, that's why I will say I like what you did last night, Tim, because I think that is a better way for people to parse the information. A couple of people watch it. You discuss it. No one needs to watch Trump live anymore. He's lost the privilege. Yeah. I wish people would quit giving him live coverage. They're going to. But the way to view these events, I think, is through responsible parties now, and not the direct access for people who abuse that live privilege so flagrantly.
Yeah, no, we make Tim stick his hand into a jar, and if he pulls out the black egg, then he has to watch Trump for us.
Yeah, that's like Fear Factor. I've got to eat the tarantula. I have one other note, and yeah. I'm about to like quasi compliment Trump. Compliment's the wrong word, but I think this is important to understand. It's important to understand the nature of the enemy. Okay, and I think that sometimes we can get into a place where his material is such word salad, and like certain times he's out there just blabbering nonsense, and there are specific policy issues where he knows nothing. Like he has these half-baked ideas, like the death penalty, that he hasn't thought through one step. Like in these senses, he is an idiot, and like he is deranged in a lot of ways. But he has certain skills, and the DeSantis attack is something that, like, just as a practitioner of the craft of politics, I look back and I'm like, I wish some of my candidates were as good at retaining the minutia of their little petty fights and the inter-candidate disputes as Trump is. Like, Trump might not be able to tell you 3 facts about, all the regulatory reforms that he brags about. Like, he always says, we cut regulation.
What is the nuclear triad?
Yeah, he doesn't know what the nuclear triad, right? He knew the polling difference between Ron DeSantis and Adam Putnam the day that they met each other, the day that they competed against each other. He knew the week-by-week DeSantis versus Gillum breakdown. He knew the day that Ron DeSantis shut down the beaches and that, right? Like, the Oppo book stuff, he learns. So he has other mental issues. But he is sharp on that, and a lot, and I have candidates like Jeb, and I think Joe Biden is like this, who sometimes think that like that stuff isn't important. I think they rightly think that stuff is important, so they don't retain it, right?
But no,
I worry about this in a debate setting. They think it's unseemly.
It's unseemly to bring out all the time. But another point where Trump was like refreshingly honest. Bret Baier kept asking him, like, well, Ron DeSantis, like, why are you beating up on him so much? You're spending more time attacking him than you spent in the 2022 midterm elections. Like, why? Kind of intimating people don't like that. Why are you attacking the Republican team? And Trump just looks at him and is like, because he's number 2. I'm way ahead of everybody, but he's number 2. Like, if he drops down to number 3 or 4, I'll shut up about him and attack who's number 2 again. Like, and I think voters that want to win really like that, because Trump is essentially saying, it's not that personal. He's just the one that threatens me, so I'm going to go after him. Duh. And he made it seem as common sense as, the sky is blue.
Two questions before we move off of this. First off, did you guys think that Trump was effective when going after Trump? So Tim, you say it's all, he's got it all at his fingertips. Do you think it was delivered in an effective way? Do you think it'll move any
going
Fox
after
viewers?
DeSantis?
Yeah, the way in which he's doing it.
I'm not sure about that because he was kind of on the defensive in these areas. I think if it was in a different space where he was going off in areas where he has strength versus DeSantis, he was like responding to the things that Bret was asking. So I'm not sure that he gained any ground with DeSantis viewers. But I will say this: he is prepared for that, for taking incoming for DeSantis if he does end up having to be on the stage. Like it is, DeSantis is going to have to put on his big boy wellies, and I just don't know if he's capable of it.
Yeah,
and so
he doesn't have those.
I was impressed in that sense. Impressed is not the right word, but you know what I mean. I thought that part, the parrying back about the obvious attacks that DeSantis will put on him, he is like, it's the one thing that he has actually done research on, right? Like he knows what he's going to say on all that stuff. Just as a general statement, this is a thing that I can't quite figure, and it just might be the paradox that is why nobody can beat him in a Republican primary, which I hope is wrong. But I watched the interview, and it's just like for all the reasons we've all already said, to Amanda's point about just how authentic he is. He just says what he's like, yeah, I'm only attacking because he's in second. But anytime he's under attack, I try to imagine myself as my MAGA uncle, and I'm like, I think they like it. Like the harder Bret is, in certain ways, the more Trump's like, oh yeah, this establishment stooge is coming for me. And so I just think as a total performance, I think that with swing voters, horrible. I judge him as a deranged lunatic. But I don't know. I bet if we had one of Sarah's focus groups sit down there and watch it with me, my guess is that most people it would have helped him with that crowd, the MAGA two-time Trump voter
also
crowd.
He's on the attack, right? He's always attacking Ron DeSantis, and Ron DeSantis kind of hides behind his pack that takes these bank shots at Trump, and it's weak. People like debate, they like the fight, they like the conflict, and if DeSantis doesn't fight, the ball goes to Trump. Automatic point.
Amanda, do you think there is a polling number at which the anti establishment that has glommed and circled onto DeSantis, at which point they abandon ship and start looking for somebody else to be viable? Or do you think they are pot committed to him no matter what? Oh, you think just right back to Trump?
Yeah. They want to win. I mean, it does go back to who is going to get me over the finish line. And that was the reason for the big DeSantis bubble. It happened when Trump was threatened, not because they had actually soured on Trump, not because they're actually going to turn on Trump forever. I mean, even Chris Christie, we're all happy about what he's doing now, didn't do this when he would have risked his own political position. Now this is safe to do, right? So it's Trump or DeSantis at this point.
I think that I'll just say I think DeSantis will continue to be strong because his favorability continues to be strong despite Trump's attacks. But if for whatever reason DeSantis tanks, I think it's a split group. I think some go back to Trump, and then now there's like a new wave of people who've crossed the Rubicon. You know, that Charlie's written about in the newsletter, the Never Agains, right? The Bill Bars and the Chris Christies and like that, the Koch,
they go to Doug Burgum.
They'll go for Doug. They'll try to find somebody else. There'll be a category of people that would try to find someone else.
They're going to stay on the side. I listened to Charlie's interview. I hate to keep going back to Chris Christie, but he is sort of emblematic of the moment. And Charlie asked him, what are you going to do if you don't get the nomination? You said you won't support Trump. And he's kind of like, well, I'll just leave the top blank.
Good.
I mean, sideline is fine. You vote for Biden or sideline. That's
is
a
better
win.
Than writing in Edmund Burke.
I agree.
Okay, so
I will just say that there's other people. That's what I'm saying. There's this dividing line. Like Tim Scott answers that question. I'm for Trump. Right. And so I think that within that group, of the people that are challenging now, there are the DeSantis. I think that there just are two categories that I think would fissure.
So I want to use this to transition to RFK Jr. I think people don't fully appreciate how well he's doing in Democratic polls. If we were to draw an analogy between Trump and DeSantis and then Biden and RFK Jr., DeSantis is only running a little bit ahead of RFK Jr. He's ahead of him.
What is the DeSantis to RFK Jr. vote? DeSantis doesn't.
He's a little bit ahead of him, but so where Trump is polling at like 54, Biden's polling at 61.
There's certain states where DeSantis is popping, and RFK Jr. has nothing. But in the national polls, I'll give you that.
In the national polls, where RFK Jr. is sitting between 12 and 20, and so Biden's lead over him is roughly 40 points.
Yeah.
And Trump's lead over DeSantis is roughly like 31 points, 32 points. And for everybody else in the Republican race, like Tim Scott wishes that he could be as close to Trump as RFK Jr. is to Joe Biden. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah, if he ever did that, it'd be the high watermark of his campaign.
It would be, the greatest. So what do you guys, I wrote about this today. I think that the RFK Jr. is sort of a curious thing. And then Amanda, you and I started talking about it, and you were like, I felt very stupid after writing my thing, because I was like, oh, right, no, Amanda's good. Why did I feel like I had made this discovery? So this is the move, right? This is what we now have happening in the Democratic Party once a cycle.
Yeah, I don't know what I told you that I thought was brilliant, but I'll tell you what I have on my mind. He's not a Democrat. He's a plant. And so the play is to try to run in the Democratic primary. He won't get on the ballot. Maybe he wins Iowa. Who knows? He gets something. He gets some kind of standing. He doesn't win. He withdraws from the race and throws his support behind Trump.
Yeah. Right.
That's the 1 or 2%.
This is what Tulsi was, right?
The whole point is to gain nut job Democrats or Republicans who are in love with Camelot and say it was rigged against me. They wouldn't let me compete. Therefore, We're going to get behind Trump, who's going to restore integrity in our election. Like, God knows what he's going to say. And then he'll take the anti-vax vote that DeSantis had, give it to Trump.
There's probably a QAnon
Amanda's just getting to the nuts of things. You realize this is a podcast, we're trying to fill an hour here. You're just like giving TikTok answers.
I know, I could just go like 5 minutes, done.
You're just like, boom.
Sorry.
This is the nuts of it. I concur with Amanda. There was an interesting news story, just as a brief aside, since we're on a podcast and I need to fill air because Amanda's answers are so short and good. Did you see that RFK thought that poppers cause AIDS? You know about poppers? Anybody?
I don't know it.
What's a popper?
Those things you throw on the ground that make a noise at 4th of July. By the way, my son said he threw a bunch of those outside the step and forgot they were there. Guess who stepped on him going out for a run at like 6 a.m.?
Oh, no.
I about died.
Is that child
I thought
still
I was
alive?
dead. I thought I was
What did you do to that child? We had a parenting podcast recently. I want to know.
Was it the boy or the girl? Which one was
the
it?
boy. He did a guy.
Why did he even ask if it was the girl? Of course it was the boy.
What
is a popper?
Do you have a guess, JVL? What a popper is?
No, I honestly, I was going to ask. I was going to guess the same thing as
it's not
Amanda.
really drugs. It's like it's popular in gay sex. It's like it's a little snifter. It's like a snifter, I guess I would say.
I have no idea what?
A snifter.
You sniff something before you
Yeah, it's like
do
during
stuff?
sex, it just kind of like adds to the experience. Just
Do
Google it if you want. I'm just going to
drink
leave
it?
it there. You do not drink it.
Do
You do not drink
Why
it.
is it only for gay people?
Do you?
I don't think
it
is only for gay people.
Are you huffing it?
I think it's huffing. It's like huffing.
Huffing.
It's
Is
like
it
huffing.
legal?
It is legal. It's sold over the counter, and it's like a huffing kind of.
Where are you
thing.
shocked?
So is RFK Jr. explaining
I don't know where you buy them.
to vote?
So you're not recommending it. This isn't
I'm not
here's a
recommending
sponsored link. Click up here and get your popper.
I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying it is an over-the-counter, something that you can purchase. It's not an illegal
sponsorship
narcotic.
opportunities to come.
RFK, but because it's popular in the gay community, why does RFK know about it? I don't know. I guess he probably has a lot of metropolitan friends, and so he just threw that out there as a theory for AIDS. There are some issues with that. I guess there's a correlation causation issue there.
I thought about frogs. I didn't know. Was that the frog thing?
Yeah, well, the same. And then he also was reiterating the Alex Jones thing
Frogs
that they were doing
poppers.
tests. They were doing tests on the frogs, and the government was making the frogs gay. And RFK was saying that those same tests were kind of part of the reason so many kids are trans now, is that we were
they giving the frogs poppers?
I bet
no,
those are the people planning documents.
Two separate theories.
Okay. Sorry.
But the poppers theory, I think there's some obvious holes, but Africa I think would be a big one. I mean, a lot of AIDS in Africa. I'm not sure how popular poppers are in sub-Saharan Africa. But anywho, in case you were a listener who was wondering, is this possible? Could it really be the poppers? I don't. There's some holes in the theory. So that's RFK. He's out there. I think that Amanda's point, which is more relevant to the political matter at hand, and your newsletter, JVL, the key insight is that he will be supporting the Republican nominee. He's not a Democrat. He's out there advancing literal Alex Jones conspiracy theories. There is not an Alex Jones lane in the Democratic primary, and I think the question.
No, there is. There is a lane. There are still voters for the Democratic Party to lose. This is what I was trying to hammer home on this. Like, if Democrats think that they've bled off all of the Obama to Trump voters that they were going to bleed off, no. I believe that is mistaken, that there are still more of those people to be bled off.
Well, I agree with that. And I looked at the number, and I think a lot of them are voters of color, but there are also still white working class voters out there. People, the thing that always bugs me is when libs are like, we need everyone to vote. And I'm like, do you realize the number one demographic group of people that don't vote is non-college white men? So maybe we need everyone to vote, but maybe we don't.
Chill
anyway,
everyone.
I was looking at the stats. David Frum had a good thread about RFK that I'd recommend people look at. And he was making the opposite point of this, which is like voters love vaccines, which is true. Voters do love vaccines. Like the anti-vax vote is not a majority, not even close to a majority position. It's a huge minority position. But on the graph that he posted, I was interested to see that there were 7% of Democrats that were anti-vax. And there is your so your Kennedy vote is basically people that are just that think he's John Kennedy, people that are expressing unhappiness with Joe Biden but are going to come back around. But the concerning group is that 7%, right? Can you
a lot
lose
bigger than Jill Stein
from that group? And I think that is what I worry about. The other just little fun parlor game, JVL, that's worth mentioning on this, which you said, and I'm curious your answer today, which is if we polled RFK in that national Republican primary field, where do you think he'd be?
Third.
Definitely third.
And I honestly,
wow,
I think I think he'd be very, very close to DeSantis. I think he'd be at like 15, 17%.
Well, DeSantis, or Amanda, while you just take that in, I want to hear your opinion. While you take that in, I'm going to give you one other piece of anecdata. When I tweeted this out earlier, a gentleman follower from New Hampshire replied, and they said, I have seen 2 in New Hampshire, not 1, 2 Trump 2024 signs where people wrote in RFK Jr.
Oh my God,
underneath
it's working.
it as the ticket. So that's just a report from the
field. Why wouldn't he be a running mate?
I think he'd be a great pick. I mean, for Trump.
Trump,
right? It's like
Kennedy,
I got a Democrat.
I mean, just the branding on it, you can see Trump who is obsessed
Kennedy.
with branding, just loving the idea of Trump in a larger font over the name Kennedy. Right? I've conquered America's premier political dynasty. All right, Amanda, give me your number.
Oh my God. I mean, my head
Kennedy?
wants to say 3%, but I'm puking. Like, I guess it's bad. I don't know. I'd have to.
More than Nikki and Tim Scott put together, correct?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
The question is he in Vivek territory or is he in DeSantis territory? That's the question. He's
closer to
ahead
DeSantis than
yeah,
Vivek.
He's
Probably
ahead of all
between.
the other people. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is wild.
100%.
It's the world one.
All right.
Well, why don't we put him on the Republican ballot then in the primary?
Oh, if only we could. All right, Amanda, you have some personal news to share with the class.
I do. I'm training for the GFK 50. That's not it, but that is true.
I'm so proud of you.
50? Oh my gosh,
Wow.
You're going right to ultras.
Yeah,
Guys,
I'm
lucky
happening.
to just make
It's
it
happening.
one time around the track.
It's happening. It's gonna be awesome. But also, I am leaving the Bulwark to take a job in the communications shop at Protect Democracy, which is an awesome group that's been doing really great, innovative legal activism stuff on the tech front. I'll be talking all about it, but I just want you guys to know, I don't feel like I'm leaving because this is all in the same space. And I've had such a good time here. I hope I'll be back. I hope I can do more projects with you guys. So I don't really feel like I'm going anywhere, but I am getting a new job. So that's that.
So when Amanda told me, I was instantly shell-shocked and sad. And then I asked, where are you going? And when she said Protect Democracy, I went instantly to happy because I know a bunch of people over there and I love them. They're all good people. The group is amazing. They're going to be blessed to have you. And I think you're going to love it over there. And also, you're not disappearing into some private corporation where you have to become anonymous. You can still come and hang with us all the time, I hope.
Yeah,
So it's the best of all worlds, I think.
Yeah.
Tim?
I love Protect Democracy. I have 3 exit interview questions for you. What was was that it though? Like because for me, like the idea of going back into comms where it's like, I'm selling toilet paper or whatever is soul crushing. And so like for you,
we don't
is
sell
that
toilet paper?
yeah, like what I mean? I'm not going to go to Clorox.
No, I get it.
And whatever, be the VP of comms.
I would do that.
Like what? I just was that part of it. Like I assume, right? Because we haven't talked about this. I also like Protect Democracy, but I haven't asked you what was it that got you excited about it.
I had always, and I talked with Sarah about this like a year and a half ago. Like kind of, she's asking, what do you want to do eventually? And I always kind of had in the back of my mind, I'd like to do comms work again somewhere. I mean, my time in the cruise shop, like. My career on that front kind of got cut short in an abrupt way. Like I was having a great time in the cruise office. The only reason I didn't stay down there longer is that they wanted everybody to move down to Texas to work at the Texas headquarters. And I didn't want to sit in the Senate shop. I had 2 kids under 2, didn't make the move, ended up going to CNN, doing that whole crazy roller coaster, which was great. And I thought I would stay just doing media stuff. But then in the end of 2021, I got the offer to renew my contract at CNN, And I kind of just decided I had kind of maximized all my opportunities on that front for what they were asking in terms of what I could do and other things I couldn't do. And I just kind of like had a come to Jesus moment. Like, is this what I want to be doing 5 years from now? Like, keep going into the green room, keep doing this thing. And then you guys are doing all kinds of great stuff at Bulwark. So I was like, okay, I'll double down on that. But always in the back of my mind, I was like, I feel like I have unfinished communications work. I love writing, but I do love working with the team to make message and, make points and do all that kind of stuff too. So like, I'm just super blessed because I've been able to be with good people no matter where I go. I feel like in this, pro-democracy states through this really, really hard time. And this was just a really unique fit. I wasn't looking for it. I actually was looking on job boards. I wasn't poached. I was looking on job boards for a friend of mine that was looking for a job. And I saw this one and I was like, this group does all the things I like. It's elections, it's investigations, it's protecting, democracy. Clearly it's in the name. They're doing cool stuff with, tech in terms of like making sure databases are secure, like just lots of neat stuff and lots of lawyers who are pushing the envelope and representing people who need representation for free, like the January 6th committee witnesses, like those poor election workers in Georgia. Like it's just, and every time I look in the news and be like, oh, that's a really good fight, they were in the middle of it.
Yeah, they're so great.
So it was just one of those things.
All right, I have 2 more exit interviews, a hard one and a fun one. Here's the hard one. You mentioned Ted Cruz, okay?
Yeah.
I'm curious, I was so excited when you came, right? This is always our shtick. You were on the Ted Cruz side, and I was always on the Huntsman-y side. And I'm just wondering, so now we have this distance of however many years it's been. It feels like a million. And I'm just wondering, what do you think now, differently about than you thought then? And, what do you think the same about that you thought as back then?
Well, the main things I've changed my mind about have to do, mainly with the, I will say, I was always very proud of my work in the cruise shop. We had great people. I liked working with their, some people, even though they may not be speaking to me, I still think kindly of them, even if we don't speak anymore, of that time there. And I really felt strongly about that, probably until January 6th. I understood why Cruz supported Trump, got to represent Texans and all that. But really the breaking point, I didn't write anything about Cruz until after January 6th. And the breaking point really were the people that turned in November and December of 2020 that were going along with the election, people who I didn't think ever would. And, I got a lot of private emails that were bad, from people I worked with. And it's like, there's just no going back from this. And watching him go down to the floor and essentially lay the predicate where people then mobbed the floor, right? Like if Ted Cruz decided not to object, they may not have come that day. It's the same way I feel about Mike Pence. If Mike Pence had said, there's nothing I can do in December, it might not have happened. And so I feel really sick about that. And a number of us, we're like, how did we not see this? How did we not see it? And it's just like, it still makes me sick today. It's like, it wasn't there. Something changed and there's no going back from that. So that,
And what is so this is happy talk now. And what is your favorite thing about that you did at the Bulwark? Not about the rest of us. What was your favorite thing that you did? If people want to go back and be like, Amanda Bulwark time, I'm going to pull back out something you wrote or a podcast you did, friendship you made.
Just the daily of just being in the fight together. Obviously I really felt like not to keep going back to January 6th, but like you guys let me, I would say in the summer, going into the election, really digging into the conspiracy stuff, how this is going to play out. And the number one thing is, I think people think I get like assigned stuff to write. You guys let me write whatever I wanted. Really, I'd make a pitch, I'd write it. And I think people who I talk to outside this have a hard time believing that, which I kind of find insulting because I think I didn't come up with this on my own. But that's the thing I am most proud of and happy about, is that everyone trusted each other to write what you think, say what you think, and go for it. And it was cool. And it will be cool. And it still is cool.
I'm going to miss you.
Oh, I'm not going anywhere.
I know.
I know. You're going to have to come to all our Monday Zoom meetings anyway so we can see you. You got to stay in the Slack, too. Can't have you leave Slack.
Oh, really?
I
thought you guys were going to disappear.
No, we're going to save you. Please leave Slack for your own good.
All right, guys, good show, long show. Amanda, we love you so much and are so happy for you and grateful for building this thing with us. Come in on Sunday. We got a really good Sunday show. Tim and I sat down with Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn, and we talked a lot about AI and some spicy stuff about Elon Musk too. It's a really good, really smart show.
Yeah.
Which I Googled and I know what they are now. I understand it.
I can't
While
believe
you guys
I
were
did
talking,
that.
I was learning about things.
Oh boy. Hey, hit subscribe, give us 5 stars. We've just gone over 1,000 reviews on Apple Podcasts. I'd like to get to 2,000 pretty quickly. Let's get on that, guys. And we will see you on Sunday. Bye.